All right, so we're on part three, and but yeah, we're gonna go back to the story of what happened after being at the hospital. So we're in the hospital, right? And here he is in the bed. They're in this room bleeding. There's blood everywhere. There was like 5 or 6 people. They'd been there for hours, pumping blood, pumping blood, pumping blood. Transfusions after transfusions, and I believe something to the sum of about 22 units of blood. Now, anybody out there who knows anything about what a unit of blood is, I don't really know. Is it a quart? Is it a pint? I don't know, but it was 22 units. I remember that number specifically. Excuse me, in my head. And so they kept having to infuse this blood, and so he had essentially lost, I think, in excess more blood than that was in his system, but it was like a constant flow. It was almost like having a tank of water leaking out in gallons as you're pouring gallons in. And so it was just like, whoosh, whoosh. And eventually they got it stopped. And I went home and went to sleep, came back, and they realized that, in order to fix this, in order to, essentially save him, they had to kill the kidney. Now, there was a situation. He was kind of delirious in this point. He didn't really know what he was saying. He told them initially, no, he did not want dialysis. Because like, the reason they had to kill the kidney was because of the main reason being that that's what they had to do to stop the blood. If he kept bleeding, he was going to die. And in order to stop the bleeding, the kidney had to go. He could live without a kidney, albeit very differently, but you can't live with extreme blood loss constantly. So I made the decision, since the doctors didn't feel as though he was of a stable mind. And I made the decision to kind of looked up. I was like, well, what do I do? Do not want you to tell him, okay, you're done. Goodbye. So I was like, okay, well, go ahead and do what you got to do. Because if he doesn't, the way I was looking at it was this. If you don't, if you don't stop the blood now, you're going to die. If you do stop it, the kidney dies and you have a chance of living. So that seemed to be a no-brainer. Then my mindset was, well, if he decides later that he doesn't want to do this and he wants to end his life, that could be on his terms. That's him. I'm not making that decision for him. I will make sure he stays alive now, and then he can do that if he feels that's what he needs. So that's what I did. And then so for the first little while, it was very frustrating. It was confusing. We didn't know what to do. And we just kind of like took it a day at a time. And he started doing his dialysis treatments in the hospital. And then he, eventually had other surgeries and things like that. And he was in a nursing home for a while. And it was just a struggle for him. And God, if I could take back some of the stuff that I said to him, and it wasn't, I don't even know exactly what I said, to be honest, looking back at it. Maybe it's a mental block and I don't want to think about it. But the arguments we would get in, the senseless, stupid arguments that we would get in. I remember one time there was at the nursing home he was staying at for, recovery and stuff. He eventually came home. But the place he was staying, he wanted this, what's it, a hot dog, I think, right? And he had had these hot dogs from this place for all this time, and I was just ready to get out of there. I was ready to go home. I didn't feel like riding back and forth to get a hot dog. And but yeah, he was asking me to go get one, and I was like, I really don't feel like it, man. I'm tired. I want to go home. And he just starts crying. Like, I wish I could get up and get my own hot dog. And it was something so small, but and that's similar to the last conversation I had with him before he died, but I'll get to that in a bit. But no, I mean, it just was a struggle, you know. And I remember a good friend of mine told me once during all this, um, it's a matter of finding a new normal, you know. And it's how do you get to that point? You're so used to this, you're so used to that. This is obviously different. It's not going to be the same. No matter how hard you try, it won't be the same. So you have to find that peace with accepting the fact that you're in a new normal. And once you're there, it's kind of like, oh, this is the norm. This is, you know, what we're dealing with. This is what we're doing. And that's like the first real mindset I've had. And then, you know, I'll go more into stuff with my dad later on. I've been talking about it for about 20 something minutes now. So, which is fine. I mean, that's the whole point of this. But I tell that whole story to get to the point of this situation we're in now. There is going to be a major difference from this point on. We won't go back to a point of, oh, remember that COVID-19? Oh, no. That's asinine. Boy, I tell you what, we ain't never going to get to no damn new normal. We will get to a new normal, but not the same normal we're used to. It will be a new normal. It's an adjustment. Will we see people wearing masks for 20, 30 years? Who knows? But even if we do, I mean, is that really a big deal? I see everybody everywhere going like, hey, that's my freedom. That's my freedom. And I'm just sitting here like, boy, I tell you what, my goddamn freedom just, bah. And I can't even, I can't even get a thought. It's okay. I get it. It is frustrating to be forced to do something. Forced. I get it. And there is a fine line. But we have to like be peaceful with one another above all else, man. You can't just be like, damn you, I'm gonna do what I want, and I don't give a damn who says otherwise. But at the same time, you can't go around and be like, well, I tell you what, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and I want you to wear a mask. By God, you're gonna do it. You can't. You can't force anything against anyone. It's just not. It's not the way to be. So there has to be a common ground. There has to be a compromise. There has to be peace. If you don't have peace, you have nothing. If you don't have peace, you got violence. If you don't have peace, you've got a division. If you don't, you know what I mean? Like, be peaceful, man. That's the biggest regret I have with my father is like I wasn't always so peaceful with him. It was more about what I wanted to do in that moment, my own concerns, than it was what he needed from me. And it took a long time, but some time ago, I realized that I was never mad at my father or resented him for being sick. I was angry at the situation and at the need for him to be reliant on anyone. Not that he was reliant, like, how dare you for be reliant? No, it wasn't that. It was, I hated the fact that he was in such a position to need help, but I always took it out on him. And I'm not always, but like I would be frustrated and aim that frustration out, and it was misdirected anger. I mean, if I could say one thing now, it would be, Dad, I love you, and I'm sorry that things were the way they were sometimes. And I know you're probably you would say, don't worry about it. You know, it's in the past. But it's something I think of every day because I never want to forget those lessons. Because moving forward, I can be positive and make a change so that I don't make those same mistakes. Then I can shine a light. Maybe if somebody else will see that, maybe it'll affect them in some way. So thank you all for tuning in this week. For Between a Pot and a Hard Place, I'm Stephen Colton. Have a good week.